Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful to be joined by the great man, Jason Christoff, for a fourth time. Jason, welcome to the show. I think everyone knows who you are by now, so welcome to the show. It's good to have you back on, mate.
Well, thanks for having me back on. And yeah, early start to the day here in sunny, or maybe I haven't even looked up, but I assume it's rainy because it's Latvia, so it's like 50-50 chance between rain and sun. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome chat today too. So, Jason, what's been going on? I know at the start of the year, I think you just got back from one of your talks. What else has been going on since our last chat from back in, I think it was January? So a lot's happened in the world, especially in your old home country as well. So let's get straight into it. How you going and what's been going on?
Well, I am Canadian. I lived there most of my life, and of course, when 2020 rolled out, they deemed my chain of health facilities non-essential, even though the junk food facility on the first floor of my very big building was deemed essential. So I thought it was a good time to make a different strategy. And yeah, I mean, Canada's been getting the short end of the stick for a very long time, and they don't seem to be slowing down. What's going on in Canada isn't good by any stretch of the imagination. They seem to be the beta testing ground for every psychological operation that the ruling group has up their sleeve. It seems to roll out first and foremost in Canada. Canada's in very large, it's in trouble in so many ways. You'd really sort of have to be a truth seeker. Plus, I'm also a businessman. So I've been working independently, supporting myself for 32 years, ever since I graduated university. So I have a very unique perspective where I have a business background, I have a truther background, and Canada is, it's about to go it's under the waterline right now. And the government, everybody has their scuba gear on, but don't know their tanks are running out of air. Let's put it that way.
Because it's very similar to here in Australia as well, given that they're both Commonwealth countries. And I know where I used to live, just on the outside of Melbourne there. Melbourne and Victoria seem to be a beta test for all of this as well, given what happened there with that Dan Andrews guy that we all know. That was my old home state. So with Canada, I see you've been putting out some shorter podcasts, and you're talking about how they've been locked out of the forest. For anyone here in Australia, Jason, what would that, what would that, like, what is going on there first, and then what ripple effect might that have for any Aussies out there as well?
Well, it'll be coming for everybody eventually. And, you go back to before we describe what's going on in Canada, I'm sure some people know, but I'll give you exactly what's going on to the finer details. But the Commonwealth, it's not held by the common person. And this transition is the transition that we're seeing in Australia and Canada is not even a return to the regular ownership. It's just the regular ownership coming above ground, where before they had to hide
Hmm.
because there was like 60 Commonwealth countries, maybe even, and there are other ones, like say the United States. That's not a Commonwealth country or listed as such, but it's run by the same group. It's run by the same Commonwealth group. It was founded by the British UK royal family. And so people have to understand how they got here. So, how they got here was when you own 60 Commonwealth countries, plus many more that you fake are owned, hundreds of years ago, including the United States, and your tyrannical, unfair, psychopathic ruler. And everybody in those countries knows that you're the single cause of their misery. Your life is in jeopardy a lot, 24 hours a day. Like the potential of the complete collapse of your control system is very high. So this group said, let's go underground. We're going to go to all the countries and do what was depicted in the Jones Plantation, which is a film. Hopefully, you can put it in the show notes. I'll send you my link for it because I get $2 every time someone signs up. It's the best $10 you'll ever spend. Yeah, getting rich $2 at a time. But it is the best investment of $10 you'll ever make in your life to understand what the Commonwealth, what the UK royals did to make people believe their countries were run by different people, like different leaders reflecting the whims and the wills of the people in your particular area. That was never the case. They just needed time. So they were like, if we don't take this secondary route and create this illusion of freedom. And that's why you go to every single Commonwealth country, the Capitol building, and they'll have a statue. This is part and parcel of the manual, a freedom statue or a Freedom Day, an Independence Day, Australia Day, Canada Day. And it was all the same chapters in in the ruling handbook of how to trick people to believe that they finally obtained independence. And so the royal group would said, let's fool these people in every country. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sit back and basically plot our revenge. And they're really bad people. So you can imagine them sucking hind tit in their own country for their own property for 200, 300 years. They're pretty pissed off that they had to go that route and pretend that we were their equals and they weren't our betters. So you can see that coming out of the shadows. That's what's going on. Because what they did, as we were said we were free, and as we were mind programmed or mind controlled to use our freedom like a bunch of morons, just to party and whack off to porn and repeat curriculum that was liaria based and get A pluses for it and get these jobs in government, making everybody's lives miserable. That's how we used our freedom. This group was setting up the e-prison around us. And there's a reason the e-prison has the design it has, and it goes back to the UK royals and ancient black magic with John Dee. All kinds of weird stuff is going on here. But regardless, you have this they're coming above ground is what they're doing, and they want to do what they did to the First Nations people, like say in Canada. So when this group doesn't like freedom and it doesn't like freedom and it had this beta test with the First Nation people in Canada, the power of the First Nations people when the UK royals arrived, and I'll just put arrived in quotation marks, is that they have access to God's wealth, right? The First Nations people 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, they got God's water. They got God's fish. They got God's sunshine. They got everything they need to make bow and arrows and spears and take care of themselves. They can use the wood. They can use the hide of the animals that they kill to make the skin, the skinning for their tents. You got everything you need, the berries, the wolves, the bears, the buffalo. This group knows you can't control anybody that has access to God's resources. Can't, because God's resources are free. And this is a capitalistic sort of satano-communist cult. So they've already practiced on the First Nations people. Take them off the land, put them on reservations. And I'm from Cornwall, Ontario, Canada. And Ontario, it's right on the border of a couple different Native First Nations reservations. So whatever's going down on the First Nations reservations, that's the practice slate, the practice field that they've been operating on for a long time. Take them off the land, put them on this polluted, all of the reservations are all polluted, and it takes people, destroy their culture, send in McDonald's, send in Starbucks, send in Taco Bell, send in the shopping, also send in the drugs, send in the cocaine, the alcohol, and everything else, the tobacco, And then if you drive through one of these reservations today, you're going to see what happens when you disconnect people from God. It's very messy. So that's the model that they want to do worldwide, even in Australia. So they've started in Canada because they've been so successful with putting Canadians under this disempowering mind control spell. Like the dream of Canadians today is, I just hope I get killed last. Where, before it used to be, I'd love a family. We're going to have a big house. We're going to have lots of the other family over. We'll have dinners of 30 or 40 people. And now most Canadians are their dream is, I just hope I get killed last. And I'm not even joking. So
Mm.
their power has been siphoned off to the point where they're like shooting turkeys. And I'm from a hunting area. And I don't know if you know anything about hunting turkeys. Like one time we were on my the porch of my friend's house, and there's like 6 or 7 big fat turkeys. They don't they're so stunned. They're within range. I mean, you think animals would be afraid of humans. They're within 40, 50 feet. So my friend just gets his gun out and picks off one of the turkeys out of the 7, and that turkey just drops dead, right? And the other turkeys just look like looking at their friend, and then they just keep eating. And then he blows away the other turkey. So now there's 2 down. And again, they just kind of stop, like, what was that noise? And they look down at their dead friend and they're like, huh, oh, well, that's what Canada's like.
Mm.
They're like shooting turkeys because between what happened in 2020 and the maid and the addiction problem and the drug problem, I don't know if you know what's going on over there in Canada. It's a turkey shoot because
Mm.
they don't react even when their friends are, you know, dying suddenly. If you have the balls or the gall, sorry, mom. My mom says never to swear. So did I swear yet? Maybe I did. Sorry, mom. I'll give you a preemptive sorry, mom, if I swear today. But if you go to Canada and, say if someone dies suddenly, they're 35. And the Canadians, they forget how you're supposed to die. Like I'm 56 years old. The way you're supposed to die is this gradual decline over even a couple years, where the person you show up and you're like, they don't look that good, right? But they're still living, they're still at their own home. And then a year later, we had to bring them to the hospital. And there's like 3 months in the hospital, and then you got to bring them to hospice, which is like what they call palliative care, the end of life care. And then they die over like a 4 month period. Canadians, like the great Canadian turkey shoot, they forget that dying like bike riding or dying on the way to work or dying while you're driving your car and running into a tree in front of someone's house, that's not the usual way to die.
Mm.
And so when someone dies suddenly in Canada that has like no pre-existing conditions, they're just, doing some gardening and their husband looks out and the wife's face down in the dirt. That's not the way you're supposed to die. And if you mention it inside the Great Canadian Turkey Shoot, they're like respect for the dead. I would say something like, did she get the shot? And that's not to the family. I just gonna ask some friends and I'll say, this is happening quite a bit. There's something going on here with the experiment from 2020 to 25. You're disrespectful. I can't believe you're bringing this up, but they'll never bring it up. It doesn't
Mm.
matter if it's right after the death, 2 years after the death, and all the turbo cancers. Again, it's like the 7 turkeys getting shot by my friend. One of them gets shot, and someone says, "Well, I think it's the hunter." Oh, you're not disrespect. You're disrespecting Frank. He just died. Let's mourn him a little bit. But they're never clearing their way out of danger. So this is why Canada is this great beta testing ground for what this ancient cult is wants to do worldwide. So in New Brunswick, which is a province on the East Coast, so Nova Scotia and New Brunswick are border to border. And Nova Scotia kicked it off first with your same typical sort of same announcement that would you get in 2020, like, we don't want to do this. We're doing it for your safety.
Yeah.
We're here to help you. But as of 4 o'clock today, no one's allowed in the woods. And you can see the same economic impact, right? Because in Nova Scotia, there's a lot of economic prosperity allotted to small businesses that give hunting and fishing and nature tours. So they're out of business right away. And of course, we all know a part of the slow grind, this Fabianistic approach, named after Emperor Fabian, a famous Roman emperor. And his goal was just grind them down over time,
Hmm.
death by 1,000 cuts. And even Emperor Fabian, he would say things like, I'll grind them down so long over time, I won't even finish in my lifetime. I'll even pass it on to my kid, and he might even pass it on to his kid. And the subsequent generations of the population we're putting the gears to, they'll never figure this out because it'll be so slow. They'll just think it's just the way it is or just the way we do things around here. And eventually we'll win through attrition. So again, they're doing this slow grind. We're gonna, bankrupt this 5,000 people sector over here. No one's really gonna notice because it's not affecting them. And then New Brunswick jumped into the fold and said the same thing. You're not allowed in the forest either. And New Brunswick went even a step farther, which I'll just tell you some of the secret mind control tricks and sort of how they're related to longer term agendas. New Brunswick kind of leapfrogged Nova Scotia and said, not only are we going to close access to the forests, we're going to close the gun shooting ranges on Crown land. So they're trying to give people the impression. Now, I'm a gun owner in Canada. Guns don't, it's not a musket. Okay. They don't fire big shit. Big flames don't, it's not Hollywood. Okay. There's not a big ejection of flame out of the barrel of your gun to start a fire. And they know that. But what they're trying to do is paint that picture in the average person's mind that when someone's out trying to have access to God's free food, they might burn down the forest. And if they can ban the forest access, and this is the fine nuances, again, the average person doesn't know anything about. See, in Canada, home defense with a gun is illegal. If I go to write my license for my gun, and you have to take a course, if I say I'm getting the gun for home defense, I am not allowed to own a gun. And this is how long they've been setting up this ambush. And someone's like, well, what ambush? Well, hold on. So the only legal reason is hunting or practicing your shot at the shooting ranges. That's the only legal reason you're allowed to have a gun. See how long they've set this up for? So if you're not allowed in the forest and the shooting ranges are closed, give me your guns.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't fall back on any legal position to keep your firearms because home defense is not a legal position in Canada. And they made sure to set that up decades ago because they knew this is part and parcel of what they need to do to come back above ground as your real rulers. These UK royal family are the ones that foot the bill for the illusion that you're voting and everything that goes with that. All the two-party, three-party back and forth, all the political actors, all the governmental structures, It's all part of this massively funded illusion. So they want to dismantle the illusion for capitalistic gain alone. It costs trillions of dollars over 60 Commonwealth countries to put up this liaria-based illusion that you're free. Now, if they come above ground with a like a Palantir style e-prison where it doesn't matter if you know or not, they're not only going to be able to tax farm you to a much higher degree, they also make double. They double dip because they no longer have to fund the illusion. So so in Canada, you're not allowed in the forest, and the food prices in Canada are sky high. Like for a pint of organic blueberries, it's probably $15
Mm,
for a 15 Canadian. And if they lock you out of the forest, I guarantee you they're going to 30
mm,
because what if they can charge whatever they want for the meat and the berries and the fish, like if a fish fillet in Canada was $200 for a nice fish fillet, and you used to get a free fish fillet by fishing just in your local lake, well, then you go to your local lake. But how about if you're cut off? Then they can charge you anything you want. And then they're no longer organic, are they? They're all sprayed with a peel. People don't know what a peel is. It's a chemical coating suggested to be put on all produce by Bill Gates and his coterie of ancient buccaneers. So you can see there's a lot of angles the average person isn't thinking about. And in Newfoundland, which is our island province, it's an island off the east coast. They haven't banned entering the forest because it's not enforceable there. It's a very sparsely populated, very large piece of land. But if you're not allowed to, use the ATVs in Newfoundland. So and you're not allowed to set fires, period. So if you can go in the forest in St. John's, but you can't set fires and you can't use your ATV. So it's sort of like a camping ban, because if you're going to go and into the forest in Newfoundland for more than a day, you're going to need a fire. You're going to need a campfire either to cook or to stay warm. So if you can't have one, it's like a camping ban. So what they're trying to do is slowly condition the public that this is normal, slowly condition the public to be separated from nature, which is a separation from God. All their policies in their finest essence is separate the people from God. That's the foundation of every policy this group operates from. And I will tell you, you might not believe in God. Maybe your great grandparents probably did. Somehow you've been conditioned to think that this isn't important. But I'll tell you one thing, if you research this group, they are the most rabid believers in God because everything they do is based on a hatred of him. So think about that for a second because it's very important and it can give you the solution of where to strike them because this group absolutely hates what we know as God. And for them to have that much hatred against an imaginary thing that doesn't exist, I think it's pretty far-fetched, but that's my personal opinion.
yeah, and it's so true, hey. And they've conditioned us against, but like believing in that and believing in an innate whatever it is. People will. That's another divide and conquer strategy they use too. It's like we're all fighting over who God is. We're all fighting over all these things. And I know you circled back to the guns. I was just going to ask you here in Australia, they took ours off us in the 1990s and they staged a Port Arthur shooting.
Yeah.
Have you looked into that? Yes, that's same as
Yeah,
same as here. They took ours off us, and we can't. And that's why they did what they did the last 5 years. 'Cause we had no form of defense, and it's very much the same as Canada. We can only have ours if we're hunting, or there's no home defense reason here as well. And they did that 25, 30 years ago. even longer.
It's it's the same manual,
Yep.
right? And it's because it's the same group.
Mm.
And they give you the impression you got Australia Day, we got Canada Day. You probably have some statue in your capital of some freedom fighter that finally set you free. There's
Captain
the
Cook.
constant Captain Cook. Yeah, he discovered it. Prison colony. Everybody's free now. Nothing. But again, it's this. They'll not only did they give you this fake freedom, they came in behind it and made sure that you thought freedom was drinking beer
Yeah.
or partying, right? And that's also in the manual. So that's not by chance. They did that everywhere in the United Kingdom. They did it in Canada. They did it in the US. People are just, they're very slovenly. They're addicted. They're overweight. They're very weak. I mean, in order to conquer a population, which they know they had to do, they have to use mind control tactics, not only to make the people believe they're free, but make them think that freedom is about gluttony and self-indulgence on a
Hmm.
24-hour, 365 scale. Because most people today still have that impression that it should be one trip, one masturbation session, followed by a coffee, followed by a beer, followed by some sex, some mindless sex with this, that, or the other. And it's just this ongoing, rolling this perpetual pleasure cycle. And that's why I mean, it's like the great world turkey shoot. I mean, and they haven't made us, like, we're not born to be that inept and that slovenly and that stunned like these turkeys. But they can really easily lead us in that direction through control of the media, mind control in the TV shows, mind control in the movies. And we're all in the same situation where we're like those turkeys. We're looking around, our friends are dropping left, right, all around us. And all we want to do is grab, get our coffee, watch Netflix, have a beer on the weekend. I mean, the price for freedom is constant vigilance. We haven't been vigilant, and that's why we don't have any freedom because we're not watching the e-prison being built around us. Yeah, they're pretty covert with building it around us. But, the digital ID and everything that happened in 2020, it couldn't be more obvious that it was just a psychological operation. There was nothing to be
Mm.
afraid of, but it felt better to go along with it, right? We here's the thing. God gave you a mind. God gave you a defense system against spiritual intrusion. God, God gave you a system where you can see these red flags. And so when people went along with it, even though there was at least 20 red flags in the first 20 days alone, you went against God. Whoever went along with this, they tricked you to go against the system of defense that God gave you, which is your brain and your sort of sensory perception to say, doesn't feel right. And then they said, oh, don't think on your own. Don't protect your vessel. Well, who gave you your vessel?
Mm.
Who gave you your body? God, right? So there's the devil over in the corner saying, give your body to me. I'll protect you. I'll protect you over here with the needle. And so when people don't even understand that it's a ritualistic like walkthrough in regards to turning against your creator. And every time you walk through a ritual like that, you're probably not going to notice it. Like, and then it just becomes more facilitated inside your own neurology. So when you have a kid, it's your kid to take care of. God gave you the kid. And today they're going to do another walkthrough to more fortify the neurology of you don't even know what's going on. These are rituals where you're turning away from your God given design. You're going to pick your kid up at 3 years old and go to the daycare. Why are you doing that?
Mm.
What do you think the walkthrough is for in that situation? right? And then you bring your kid to, the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Ha, here's some of this stuff. I got some arm darts for your kid." Your kid doesn't need the arm darts. And then it's another walkthrough against your creator. You don't need them because the creator gave you everything you needed. And then you're like, I don't trust the creator. Another walkthrough, another walkthrough. Oh, you don't trust what God gave you. And I don't even go to church, don't read the Bible. I can see this.
Mm.
I can see this a mile away that every walkthrough, right? And the walkthroughs are important because you can't stop. Try to find a kid today that has masturbated every week for the last 10 years. Try and get him to stop. Why can't he stop? Why can't addicts stop drinking wine, or why can't someone stop drinking coffee? Because with every walkthrough, with every daily walkthrough, the neurology becomes like fortified Kevlar. You can't bend it, break it, stop it, inhibit it. So the more times you walk through this lyria based rituals, that they don't look the same. They don't look the same on purpose, right? So when you go to the grocery store and you're eating food with poison sprayed on it, what do you think the walkthrough is there?
Yeah.
God gives you food. You're supposed to eat it. Why are you supposed to eat the food in the forest? Because it was designed by God to work with your God designed body. That's it. Nothing complex there. Like, you don't go to the gas station and go in the gas station and buy a 2 liter of Pepsi and jam it in your gas tank as fuel. Why? Because the fuel, Pepsi doesn't run the car. Gasoline runs the car. You have your own fuel made by God, which is specific for your body. And you're going to have Ritz crackers and cereal, pasteurized milk. Always they're walking you through, walking you through. And then when you get sick, someone will say, "Hey, you know what? You just need some natural food. You got to get out in the sun, get in the forest, get the vibration of nature washing over you, get to sleep on time. That cancer-causing radiation square in your purse called a phone, a cell phone, you might want to leave that at home." These things all add up to interfere with the design of your body. And you're like, I don't trust it. I gotta go to the guy that wears a white butcher coat, the same butcher coat that the butcher at the grocery store is full of blood, same coat. Now, if you had your brain working as God designed, at least you'd see that. And you might say, you know what? This is really weird.
Yeah.
I got this guy with the butcher coat trying to give me things made from a factory instead of at a farm, and like a, pharmacy, pharmaceutical. And, and I got this guy over here down at the grocery store. He's got the same butcher coat. Now, if you fed yourself real food and sort of teamed up with, we're on team God between your natural body and the natural food, you would at least start seeing that. And then as you're going through the hospital, if your brain is getting fed by the food that God gave you, you would at least say, you might not sound as radical as me, but you could at least formulate some pondering inquiry about why there's chocolate bar chip and pop machines inside a health center called a hospital. You could have some other inquiries about why the people who go to the doctor the most are the most sick. The people that take the most arm darts, they're the most sick. The people that take the most meds, they're the most sick. And your doctor doesn't get paid to make people healthy. And everybody in the waiting room is super sick. Where are the healthy people? Where's the book of before and after shots in the waiting room of all the amazing disease reversals that your doctor has facilitated? And the fact that none of that, if anybody's listening to that, I will guarantee that none of what I just said has ever crossed your mind. And that's because you're separated from source. Call it whatever you want, God, source, Allah. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, 100%. And I was just, and it's that's what they've done. They've made us so disconnected from ourselves as well as Source, God, Creator, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. They've disconnected us so much that sometimes it will take a genuine health crisis to start taking care of ourselves. And that's the thing. I often say, like, it doesn't have to take you to get one of these things to actually start the journey. You can start at any time. And it's not a very hard dot to connect either, is it? Like if someone like me that's 31, just from a country town in bloody Victoria can put it together, like can't we all somehow just put together one dot and just have that feeling too? Like everyone has a feeling like there's something going on, there's something wrong. But it just takes that brave person to actually listen to that feeling and action that feeling. We all have that feeling. Like everywhere I walk out in main modern society today, there's this underlying thing that there's something wrong. That's we all have common ground on that. But then, you know, the mind control programming kicks in when I just ask, oh well, look at the sky today. There's lines all on the sky. Or look at the food you're eating. You're eating food from a supermarket that's got a supermarket has an aisle, Jason, called a health food aisle. Like it doesn't need a health food aisle. Come on.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
what does
Like
it say? What does it say about the other parts of the store? If the,
exactly.
I guess it would be unhealth food aisle. But they don't, people don't like their feelings because the feelings, again, are something that's generated inside of us and it's meant as our alert system. But unfortunately, the problem with feelings is in the word itself. Feeling, like there's a movie called The Changeling. A ling means spirit.
Mm.
Okay. So the movie The Changeling was about a spirit that changes.
Yeah, Angelina
Feel
Jolie.
I don't know if it was the change. Did she do the changeling?
I
She might
think
have did.
I think it might have been Angelina, yeah. Anyway, carry on.
It's an old. It was an older movie. It was. I
Yeah.
remember in the '70s. It was a movie as well.
Yeah.
But feelings means that there's a spirit that's associated with a fee, which means you're going to get. You're going to have to pay a price to listen and act on the feelings. Like a fee is a levy or something that you're going to have to pay. So the average person did feel that something was wrong, but they weren't in 2020, but they weren't ready to pay the price
Yeah.
because they're like the turkeys. And again, not born like that. No one's born like these turkeys who get shot and watch their friends pass away and keep eating. They're made to be like that. So, and right now, something's wrong. But if people act on it, the fee might be some severed friendships, some conflict.
Yeah.
They're like, and they might have problems at their job. Well, you got to understand. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you read some of the books these people put out that are trying to corral you. They're not, they already took your pensions, your pensions are gone. And if they are going to give you your pensions, it'll be a deflated version of it. It's not going to buy anything. And then to get your pensions, they're going to say you have to be up with your armed dart schedule so that they don't have to pay you. I mean, they're going to try and corral you into one or four boxes so that they don't have to give you your pension, period. So start acting on the feelings, and they're part of your creator based, spiritual based defense system where you're supposed to have these gut feelings. Now, the reason they call that you have feelings in your gut is they found that your brain tissue goes wraps inside your intestines as well. So your brain goes from the top of your head all the way to your bum. And when something is wrong vibrationally, and if anybody knows vibration, like Nikola Tesla said, you want to find the secrets of the universe, think of energy, vibration, and frequency.
Yep.
This group, like the UK rules I'm talking about, they're very old. They know this inside and out. They know we have a vibration protection mechanism. We have gut feelings. And we've been told, no, you don't worry about that. Go to your doctor.
Mm.
Like a lot of the symptoms that we have, like the depression, that's your body saying, that's your body's best kick at you that you're really going down the wrong path many, many miles. So it will make the depression worse and worse and worse the farther down the wrong path you go. And so they've even tricked you. So again, it's a defense mechanism, comes as standard equipment on the human body. The more in danger you are of not fulfilling your cosmic destiny, everybody was sent here to do something. So the farther you are away from that, the more depressed you get. And then so that's your God-given defense system. Then they say, no, no, Judy, there's something wrong with you, Judy. You've
Mm.
been teaching kids to be transgender down here at the school. This is a good job, castrating the kids, sterilizing the kids. This is a great job. Think about your pension. You shouldn't be depressed. Something's wrong with you. Take these pills, get back to transitioning our children. You're not depressed because your job's evil. You're depressed because of you. Something's wrong with you. You got a chemical imbalance, Judy. Take these pills. Everything will be fine. Again, turn away from God. Turn away from God, God's natural defenses, and separate you from basically your standard equipment comes on your human body. It's all there to protect you. Now, if you turn away from your protection mechanisms, can't protect yourself. It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel for the ruling group. So this is really what's going on. They're walking you through these rituals or ceremonies or customs that you know nothing about. You're getting farther and farther away from things that make you healthy, make you happy, make you satisfied in life. You're getting farther away from family, farther away from yourself, and farther away from even knowing who you are or what you're doing here. And then that's how they make you like the turkeys in the great world turkey shoot scenario.
100%. And it takes, as I said to you too, it doesn't just have to take a health scare. It will take, well, before I found you, I fell through a table talking to three young girls. Like it's gonna take a moment like that for you to. But the work we do is we're trying to help you avoid. Sometimes you can't avoid those things, but we're trying to help you avoid things getting so bad. And if you look around the world today, things aren't overly great out there. So then I always talk about the universe being a mirror, Jason. Like if you're perceiving the world as bad, what's your own world like? Look in the mirror. What's your own world like? You know, we often talk about the world's lying to us, or where are we lying to ourselves? It's the same thing because we're believing the
Mhm.
lies out there. We're believing the lies we tell ourselves, and so on the cycle goes, mate. How do we get out of that cycle? We got to start trusting ourselves, trusting the God-given vessel we've inhabited for this experience. Might be a good place to start, Jason. Maybe.
It's the only place to start. I
Yeah.
mean, the cars don't run on Pepsi and you don't run on food from a factory.
Yeah.
And all the gut feelings, all the red flags, all the strength you need, all the neurological strength that you need, mental resilience you need to fight evil, because this is obviously a spiritual battle, good versus evil. We have all the equipment inherent in our bodies to spot evil, fight evil, have solutions to evil. So many people on social media, right? You put up a post. Well, what's the solution then? Well, look, look, brain damaged person. It should be obvious, but the thing is, I'm not insulting them by calling them that, but that's how this group has made people. They're so like, you don't need my solution. The solution is imprinted into you by the creator so
Oh,
that in your particular circumstances, you're going to have the solution. My solution in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada is going to be different than, like, say, your solution in Perth
mm,
or in Melbourne or something like this. But God gave you all that equipment. It's adjustable to the situation. About you got to defend yourself from evil. You can't just take a knee and roll up your sleeve. I mean, this is not the design of your body. You're designed to put on the full armor of God, as the phrase goes. And the biggest thing they don't want you having is faith, blind faith in something better. That's
yes.
what they don't want you happening. See, this is the thing. They're so finely nuanced in their mind control and brainwashing of the population. They know so so much about us and we know nothing about ourselves that if we would get up in the morning and just believe that there's something out there that loves us and that is protecting us from afar and that, one day he might return and kick everybody's ass, just that story alone fires the neurology up into a strength factor that they have always had a hard time dealing with. It's such a powerful, empowering story that they have no ability to control, that somehow you're special. Somehow there's someone out there cheering for you and working in your favor. You get out of bed with that belief, which was the foundational premise of religion. That's the cornerstone. I believe in the cornerstones. I don't believe in the pedophiles or
Mm.
the drinking of the blood or the eating of the flesh. And I got my own views on that sort of stuff. But I love the story that because I know how mind control operates. They're trying to tell you you're not special. You're born a sinner. You're not here for any particular purpose. You're a cluster F. You have no destiny. You're flying on a rock at 60,000 miles through space, destined to break, destined to take toxic RX drugs for the rest of your life. And your biological screw up, a spiritual screw up, and a genetic screw up. This is the story they want you getting out of bed with. And you can see it's working because everybody looks. I don't know if you've seen the movie Trolls,
Mm.
Bergen Town. Have you remember Bergen Town in the movie with the trolls? Look that up because that's what our whole Western culture is looking like because we're living by disempowered values. We have to have empowering stories about ourselves so their disempowering liarrhea doesn't drown us every single day that we walk out into their faked and illusionary reality. So I know I'm on a bit of a rant here, but I think that the message is probably pretty clear. This group is in the disempowering business. Anything that makes you a mess, anything that makes you weaker, anything that makes you lower IQ, anything that makes you fatter and more dependent and more broke, that's the system. That's what you're going to get fed. Anything that makes you stronger, a natural blueberry, a natural fish from a lake, getting in the sunshine, getting away from your computer, they're going to shut it down. And that's exactly what they're doing they're going to start with the eastern coast of Canada's pretty big country, a little bit more pushback. Quebecers, they're originally from France. They're traditionally very hard to control. They don't seem to care about too much except fighting and rebelling. So I had if they conquer Quebec, the rest of Canada will fall for the forest ban. But again, they're only trying to separate you from the power that God can give you because that power is free and they want to sell you their version of God. And you can see them even coming out and declaring that, like Yuval Noah Harari is literally saying he works for the World Economic Forum, and he's literally saying that they want to be gods. They want to take the place of gods. They want to be honored as gods. This is how old this cult is. And this storyline of mental defectives when they're trying to usurp the position of God, I will tell you, it never goes well for the rest of the population ever.
Mm. And then you add in the guilt and shame too. They pretty much tell you that you're a bad human and you need to do what you're told, and that's conditioning from school. But then there's the guilt and shame. That guilt and shame, well, I've talked a lot about, so have you, but that guilt and shame goes back a long time because as soon as you fly out of the womb, some boys are getting their buddy parts of their doodle cut off circumcised too. So there's the guilt and shame factor, and that's a big one as well. They'll just ram the guilt and shame in you, so then you're in that vibrational state. So then you can just be easily walked over to wherever they want you to go. So there's the guilt and shame
And
factor too.
and this is how, again, the fine nuances.
Mm.
And again, back to the Nikola Tesla quote. If you want to
Yep.
find the secrets of the universe, think about energy, frequency, and vibration. This group were known as magi, magicians, and they can buckle you with words. So
Yeah.
if I tell you, if you don't participate in the arm dart campaign, the arm dart Olympics, you're going to kill someone's grandmother.
Yep.
Now, those are just words, but they're well aware, and it's not psychology. We're back now to the first psychology, which was magic, which was frequency. Guilt and shame have a very low frequency. So I can lower your frequency. I don't have to throw a spear at you. I don't have to throw a stone at you. I don't have to put my hands on you. I just throw through word magic, through an ancient spell, the fact that if you don't participate in the armed dart Olympics, you're going to kill someone's grandmother. I fire guilt. I fire shame. In this day and age, in the modern time, you can actually measure your vibration while you're experiencing guilt and shame. And it's one of the lowest vibrations ever measured to come out of the human body. Now, they also know that when you have low vibration, you have low mental resilience. And if I'm the mind controller that willingly knew that I was going to try and weaken you to take a better grasp of your behavior or make you highly suggestible. Now, when you're in the weakened state, I throw in my command or my suggestion. It's not a guaranteed science. Magic is not guaranteed,
Mm.
but you have greater compliance to what I'm going to tell you. The weaker you are, the more you comply. Like if I'm in a war situation and there's a burnt out building and there's no one around and I find a guy in a wheelchair that has a sandwich and I want it, I'm going to get it because he's weaker than me. Weakness is the weaker you are, the more you comply with the perceived or literal stronger figure. This group is in the full spectrum weakness business. That's what they do as a business. This is what this cult does as a business, a multi generational crime syndicate business based on mind control and weakening the population to the point where it becomes like the great Canadian turkey shoot. They're so weak mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally. They just have no way to push back. They just sit there hoping they'll be shot last. And so that's what the average person has to know they're up against. Is this is the system. You want to know what the system is? It's perpetual weakness, which gives the commands and the dictates of the corrupt ruling group more force inside your weakened neurology.
Yeah. 100%. How can no, it's not how. What? So if putting all that together now, so what is there a good future for us? Can we turn this ship around? And will we turn this ship around? I know it's a very big prediction, but what's your prediction for the next 5 years? Because we're getting very close to 2030.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know anymore, but I always hope for the best. I know there's when it's a spiritual war. So this group has been around a long time, but as you can see, it's sort of cross-generational. I mean, the I'll be honest. Let's say the U.S. presidents, okay? I think about 70% of US presidents have are directly related to King Charlemagne of France.
Mm.
Okay. So what we have to understand when I say a spiritual war, it's not about people. It's about this weird vibrational Wi-Fi, which I
Yeah.
call the devil's Wi-Fi, because doesn't it have to be a vibration to infect all those people. Like it can't be a person, or one of them would have died and it would have been over.
Mm.
How is it jumping from person to person to person to person? Because there's a Wi Fi on this planet. And people are like, oh, I know about the Wi-Fi on my computer, but when you say there's something else invisible in the air other than my Wi-Fi, which I know is invisible in the air, you're crazy. No, the Wi-Fi we have today was copied from, they know there's Wi-Fi. There's a natural Wi-Fi. There's the
Mm.
devil's Wi-Fi and there's God's Wi-Fi. And you have a router inside your brain. So they stole the router idea from the pineal gland. That's your router. And when you're sick and depressed and weak and poisoned and toxic and angry and in terror, and you got circumcised and you got arm darted 26 times when, in the first year after you were born, your vibration goes low, and it's like a radio station. The lower your vibration, the more you pick up the devil's Wi-Fi. It's okay. And the higher your vibration, your router switches frequency and you pick up God's Wi-Fi. God's Wi-Fi can, if we can get back to listening to that signal through our pineal gland and through the other equipment inside this walking router box that we call a body, we can get out of this. And again, you can see it all tie in together. If you have the natural fish, your vibration goes up, your router tunes in to God's Wi-Fi. You have the natural blueberries in the Nova Scotia forest. You have the natural raspberries. You get in the sunlight. You get near trees. The trees give off vibration and frequency very similar to God's Wi-Fi. So this is why they want you around all these ugly malls, all these
Yeah.
ugly boxes, all these big box stores. Don't forget the word mall can also be spelled Maul. Mall means to like beat up and tear apart, right? And if you spell mall backwards phonetically, I know it doesn't have the B, but phonetically, mall spelled backwards is lamb. They
Mhm.
know what they're doing. Okay, they know what they're doing. So be aware that if you want to get out of this, all you need to do is start absorbing food that works with your mechanical system called the body. Doritos doesn't run it well, beer doesn't run it well, no alcohol runs it well. And in Australia, people might be like, I'd rather get shot. And I'm going to say, you will get shot if you
Mm.
don't make this change. And they've proven that the vibration of someone emitting, like, it's not only that you're going to be receiving God's Wi Fi, you're going to be emitting it as well. Now, there's this lady called, ooh, she was on the Way Forward podcast with Alex Zek. She puts natural objects near water and then she freezes the water and tests it for geometric symmetry. So she took an egg that was natural, fully made by God, a chicken in the wild, not given anything garbage. And then she put it near the water and she froze the water. And it had beautiful geometric symmetry. It's the same premise. There was a guy called Emoto, a Japanese scientist called Emoto, who would do the same thing. He'd say beautiful words to water, freeze it. He'd tell water, I'm going to kill you over and over again. Then he'd freeze it. And what was weird is that if you told the water that you loved it, it had these massive, beautiful geometric shapes when it was frozen. The when Emoto yelled at the water, I'm going to kill you, when he froze it, it was a man with a gun. Yeah,
Mm.
pretty. It's called the hidden messages in water. If anybody, I think his name's Masaru Emoto. So this lady who's pretty famous, Veda Austin is her name. Veda Austin. And I'm getting to how you emitting God's Wi-Fi can affect other people. That's where I'm going with this. So she took a factory farmed egg, one disconnected from God, put it near the water, froze the water, and it had all kinds of unsymmetrical shapes. Like it just looked sick. There was no symmetry in the frozen water. She took the beautiful God-made egg and put it near the factory farm egg, and then took the good egg away, and then brought the that bad egg over to the water. Now that it was hanging out with a good egg, and then froze the water. And what do you know? The vibration of the good egg, God's Wi-Fi was so powerful. Now the bad egg had the same vibration.
No way.
Right. Okay. And now she took it up a notch. She surrounded the good egg with 12 bad eggs. And then she took the good egg away, and then she tested every single one of the 12 bad eggs, and they all had the vibrational symmetry, sacred geometry of the good egg. 12 against one, God won. Okay. So Veda Austin, look her up on the Way Forward podcast. She might have also been on the Here for the Truth podcast with Joel Rafidi and Yerasimos. Maybe. I'm not too sure. But basically, when you raise your vibration, you can affect the other people and raise their vibration, even if they're eating food not fit for a maggot to consume. You can change them by changing yourself. Again, Nikola Tesla, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think vibration and energy and frequency. You are a walking Wi Fi tower. And if you're picking up the devil's Wi Fi, you're broadcasting. That's why they call it spell casting, broadcasting, podcasting. You're emitting the signal that you eat every day. You eat Doritos, your router is ramming out the devil's Wi-Fi. You eat berries from the forest, you're ramming out God's Wi-Fi. And that's how simple it can be. That's how we can win. And if you want to know how to get super healthy, raise your vibration, just read one book, How to Eat,
Mm.
Move, and Be Healthy. And Nathan, do you still do coaching for overcoming self-sabotage?
Absolutely.
Because they're, yeah. So go see Nathan because he'll have to trick some of the neurology, that paved Kevlar neurology that's what's called facilitated. Someone like Nathan can break the facilitation so that you're not addicted to pornography and you're not addicted to wine. He can make you addicted to basically whatever he wants. And you just tell him what pathway you want paved in your neurology. And Nathan will show you two simple tricks where you can do it so that when you read Paul Chek's book, you can adopt what he says and get stronger and stronger and go up that vibrational ladder. And we all know the number 33 is associated with the Freemasonic Order, which is part and parcel of this ancient ruling group. It's 33 for a couple of reasons. It means that sort of magic ascension, like I'm talking about, because there's 33 vertebrae in your spine. And for you to get to the position where you're your best, you have to vibrate. It's like an octave scale on the piano. You got to vibrate at that 33 magic level. And everything they do is to make sure you vibrate in this low, messy, diseased, and depressing frequency. And it's your chance to turn it all around. So if you want to take down, like, who's the mental defective that's the head of your country right now?
Anthony Albanese.
All right. So if you want to take down this, Illuminati hand puppet, just raise your vibration and it will happen. But if you're down at the pub, I'm going to tell you, you're down there for a reason. You're down there because of programming. You're down there because of brainwashing. And alcohol was invented by the ancient Egyptians because it lowered vibrations and kept their slaves well in check while the slaves were building the stone temples that had all kinds of weird um, weird abilities beyond just looking good. So
Mm.
please understand that we need you healthy, not just so that you got a six pack or a nice bum. We need your vibration higher and we need you to say no to their poisons.
Very simple. And that's the magic. That is a big word that a lot of people have struggled to say a lot is that word no. And you've always said too, once you can master the word no, you're well on the way. It's so true.
Yeah. And the word no is on spelled backwards. You want to turn on your best life? You got to use the word no quite a bit.
100%. Jason, thank you so much again for another enlightening conversation. They always are. Always raises the frequency of myself and my audience whenever I get you on. It's bloody awesome. I love the work you're doing. Is there anything you'd like to finish us off with and where people, I've got a few new listeners, so where people can find you?
I'd say just email me at info@jchristoff.com. And look, if you email me, I'll give you a free gift. I'll give you my the 10 secrets of media and government mind control during 2020 to 2025. And I'll give you the solutions to mind control as well. It's worth $199. I'll give it to you for free. Email me at info@jchristoff.com and I'll really educate you on how mind control and brainwashing works.
You did that for me 3 years ago, mate. So I'm sure it will be a very awesome thing to do. I remember I watched it when you did it a few years ago. So yes, very, very, very well worth it. And thank you for also giving me a nice plug as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, they also know where to find me too. Jason, thank you again so much for everything that you do. And we'll have to circle back before the year's out and see where we're at and the end of 2025 into 2026. Who knows where we'll be?
Yeah, you never know, but hang in there. Just raise your vibration, and again, have some trust, have some faith that there's bigger forces. The devil's Wi-Fi is always the weakest. God's Wi-Fi is always the strongest. Keep that in
100%.
mind.
100%. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in wherever in the world you are. I'll be back real soon. Some more awesome guests, so stay tuned. Jason, thank you once again. We're over and out. Talk to you all soon. Cheers.